Right?
Good.
Which I love it.
Yeah. Hey, welcome back to the Morning Brew for Monday. And as always, we start our business week with the guys and gals at Albuquerque Business First. And Dan Mayfield joins us here at the table. Good to see you, Dan.
Good to see you. It's been a minute since I've been around here.
No kidding.
And you're flying solo these days over
Yeah,
here.
I am. Glad to have you join me here.
Yeah. We got a lot to talk about today.
We
though.
do. Two big developments in local business that involving two companies that exist here, but a lot of people don't know what they do, but they're big companies.
Big companies, big deals.
Yeah.
MCOR, they make fiber optic stuff. If you pretty much anybody who has a cable box, parts of that cable box came from MCOR.
Okay.
And then they also make solar panels that go on like amazingness satellites.
Really?
Yeah, so satellites.
So they
that
send
are
that
powered.
stuff in space. Okay.
Yeah, it's the satellites, the stuff like the Mars rover,
Oh, yeah.
powered by MCOR stuff, right?
Okay.
And the company had been struggling for years. MCOR was big. They're in the Science and Tech Park. It's technology that came out of Sandia National Labs, and it's really cool stuff. But they've really struggled on the business side of maintaining all of these different divisions at MCOR. And so they ended up selling off the solar photovoltaic side, the satellite solar panel side. $150 million.
A lot of money.
A lot of money. And we just got the proxy the other day, and the CEO, Hong Ho, is going to be walking away with about $2.4 million after that.
Nice.
And he said he's going to stay in Albuquerque, and he wants to help startups and help people do that. So we'll have a guy now on the ground, not burdened by a 9-to-5, who can come in and help a lot of companies go through the process of becoming huge. The company had a market cap of $130 million. It was a pretty good home run for New Mexico.
He's walked the walk, so he knows how to...
That's it.
Yeah.
And so it'd be great to have him on the ground now. So,
No kidding.
we might lose that company. The entire division that was sold is pretty much everything that's in Albuquerque. The rest of the companies, the headquarters is here, but the rest of the company's manufacturing is in California and in Southeast Asia. So the guess from a lot of people is that the headquarters will move, and New Mexico will lose the second largest publicly traded company in the state. And that could, that's kind of devastating.
That kind of leaves P&M.
Only
standing all
P&M,
alone.
you're right,
That's
one
it.
utility. But a couple weeks ago, a company called Exogen that does some cancer detection work filed its first S1 for an IPO. So that means we could have another publicly traded company.
Oh, that's
and
neat.
They're trying to get on to the NASDAQ. And they're trying to raise at least $70 million in that. And they are just an amazing local biotech firm that has been going since the early 2000s and finally reached a point where they can launch into the big leagues. And
Nice.
the company can't say a whole lot right now about what their plans are, what they're really trying to do, but they've been around for a long time, started by some very smart people doing some very smart stuff. So we may have lost one, we may be gaining another. So it'd be great.
And with an IPO, you have to follow some SEC guidelines and announce, and there's some time periods and waiting and all
There's
that stuff.
ridiculous-
All the regulations.
Ask the banker who's on later about
Yeah.
all the
Yeah,
crazy
David will-
regulations.
Yeah, bankers love to discuss that.
Right.
We will.
But regardless, I talked to the guys in the NASDAQ, and the company certainly meets all the requirements they have.
Yeah.
So it'd be great to see Exogen kind of pick up, and it'd be nice to have a biotech win here in New Mexico
It
also.
really would.
And if their technology actually really does do what they've been able to prove it does in the lab, it'll actually help a lot of people get diagnosed with cancer earlier, which would be great.
Hey, I'll give you a little lead. I bumped into Gary Oppendahl out at the Balloon Fiesta
Absolutely.
on Saturday, and he said they've been hosting several executives from other companies who are interested in moving here.
Absolutely.
And his words to me were they love it. They're blown away with what we do here.
Well,
And-
a lot of that, is due to the fallout from Tesla,
Yeah.
from losing Tesla, essentially.
Yes.
Because for the first time now, everybody is finally on the same page with so
Yes.
much of, the economic
Right.
development strategy. And, Gary's a one-man army, but he can't do it all on his own.
That's
so now
right.
he's leveraging the state and the county, who's here too today, I think.
Yes.
They've all been working together in ways they never have been before.
Right.
And they're really showing these companies that they can do some great things. And just last week, the county announced we're getting 300 new manufacturing jobs in the old Albuquerque tortilla plant.
Yeah.
and a company called Flagship Foods. And it was just, they gave them the full court press and said, Albuquerque is awesome, come here.
Yeah.
Sure enough, they did.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is from the Tesla
Right.
machinations. And
Gary was saying the Tesla deal really helped us out a lot.
It did.
And it's the residual effect of this is going to be big.
Yeah, it put us on a radar, I think, for
Yeah.
a lot of those companies. And we're hoping to see them land here, move here, grow here, do something here, you know?
I want to talk about another issue.
Yeah.
And it's on the ballot in 2 or 3 weeks.
We've
It's
been
the
having fun with this.
The marijuana issue is on the
Yeah.
ballot. And what are the voters going to be deciding?
Well, this is an interesting one because the marijuana issue got on the ballot. It is an advisory question. It is
Okay.
not. It does not have the force of law.
It doesn't.
It's
not going to legalize pot or any
No.
of that.
And what it does is it asks if you should decriminalize it. So basically,
Okay.
turning as somebody who has a small amount of marijuana into a parking ticket.
Yeah.
You pay a $20 fine by mail. You're done, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Rather than having to go to court and expend all of that money on mugshots and getting booked and finding a bail bondsman, you know, for
Right.
just having a little bit. So the idea is to find out really what do New Mexicans say and what would New Mexicans vote for on this. But the interesting thing on the business side of things is that, and I had one attorney tell me, it's the Campbell's nose under the tent.
Yes.
It is that first step. Colorado went through the same process years ago. And so what should your HR manager be thinking about? And I talked to employment attorneys about this, HR people about this, some business leaders around. And you know, I've written a couple of stories now that say, if you don't have a policy right now that specifically says you cannot smoke marijuana on company grounds,
Right.
get one on the books. If you don't have one that's
Or whatever you want your
says-
policy to
or
be.
whatever you think your policy should be. Exactly.
Yeah.
And now is the time to really look at that. And if any of us who have an HR manager at work, they are really thinking about this right now. The president of the Human Resources Management Association says that it is the hottest topic at all of their meetings
man.
right now.
Sure.
Because
I can
people,
see.
yeah, people want to know. And if it becomes legal, can we? In the long run, it's just like alcohol. You can't booze it up while you're at your desk, so you can't.
Right.
You know, they're not expecting you not to be able to smoke
Right.
at the desk.
And the employers know they can't control what you do in your own time,
Right.
but they can control what you do while you're on the clock.
Yes, and they know that you can't come to work high, those kinds of things. And there are, even with medical marijuana, that is another thing that considers you to be impaired. The bigger issue for New Mexico, and this is what I think is really fascinating, is that we have an economy that is in many ways based on federal contractors,
Right.
and also a lot of construction companies that must meet DOT and OSHA requirements of the Drug-Free Workplace Act. And it's a 25-year-old law that says you must do pre-employment screening, post-employment screening, and random drug testing, random drug and alcohol testing, to make
Right.
sure that nobody is high or drunk while they are driving a 35-ton big rig. And in an economy like New Mexico's, it's really important that you make sure those policies are in place, especially because if this is that Campbell's nose under the tent that makes it a little more socially acceptable to smoke, then the general assumption is that more people will be high, is the general assumption. So it'll be harder. People are expecting to it'll be even harder to find good employees, especially in rural areas.
Sure.
It'll be harder to find people who can simply meet those drug testing requirements. So
And those
it'll
are going to have to be
interesting.
revamped. It really is a can of worms.
It's a
And
little
HR
can of
manager,
worms. Yeah, and
that could be a bigger one.
It could be a bigger one, but apparently what they're really saying is just make sure your policies are in place now, and they will be good. Anytime an employer has tested this in any court, the employer has always won. Even in Colorado and even
Really?
even in Washington State. If you said no weed on my campus, and somebody violates that, the employer has always won. No matter if it's legal or not legal.
Speaking of
it's-
vices, and we got about a minute,
Oh,
minute and a
yes.
half left.
One of my
let's
favorite
talk-
vices.
Yeah, beer madness.
Our beer madness is
At the-
exploding. We are having so much fun with this.
Really?
We made a bracket like your NCAA bracket for
great.
March Madness
Uh-huh.
of local beers. There's our bracket right there.
Oh, there.
Ports and stouts, specialties, ales, and my favorite, the IPAs. Vote for your favorite local
Oh, I've
beer
gotta
in
do this.
Oh, it's great fun.
Yeah.
And I'm pushing for the La Cumbre IPA. Not that I'm saying there's any favorites or anything, but and we're just, we're having fun with it and trying to find ways to just, get more local businesses in different ways.
It just shows you
out
the
there.
scope of the brewery business
Yeah,
here.
that too. That too.
Man.
And it's amazing. We have, I think it's 17 breweries right now in Albuquerque making beer. And that's not including the breweries in Santa Fe, Socorro, Los Lunas. It's huge industry right now. It's a growing industry right now. And it's one of the handful that is manufacturing, which we love.
How do we vote on this?
AlbuquerqueBusinessFirst.com and just check it
right.
out. Yeah.
Dan, you're always full of info. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Larry.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you,
Have
man.
a super week, will you?
Will do.
All right, thank you. The Morning Brew with Dan Mayfield from Albuquerque Business First. Hey, speaking of business, a new startup weekend is coming next month, and we're going to tell you about it next here on The Morning Brew.